You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
You know, I was just going to ask you about that because I thought I had a memory of you being here, but then I thought, well, shit, I've forgotten so many damn things. I may be imagining it, but you were here.
Yeah.
So-
Let's see. Your son was like, oh shit, maybe 5, 6, something like that.
Oh, really?
I think so. He was young. You had the shop downtown.
Yeah, because that
You were still married to somebody.
yeah, I still am, but somebody different. No, then the oldest one's 40, maybe 41, and the youngest one's like 30.
You figure we went to Bulgaria in 83.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
think so, because it was the 84. They were getting ready for the 84 Olympics.
Yes, that's crazy, man. How time flies like that, huh? That photo that you sent to me, I've been looking for that photo. I thought I had it up in my gym and realized I didn't. And I must have, I don't know if I lost it in a move or I ever actually made it, because I have all these photos around my gym and I didn't see that one. So that's exactly the one I've been looking for. And you sent that one.
Yeah, I can't find my other one. I had my gym for 27 years.
Yeah.
And I went a different route because I work with developmentally disabled and at-risk kids.
Yeah.
So most of my kids at the beginning were all special needs kids.
Yeah.
And then I started working with high school kids. And the next thing I knew, my high school kids were coming in and wanting to train with my special kids. They loved them.
Is that right?
It was, yeah, oh my God, it was just a smile every day.
So I'm assuming that that smile was coming from both sides, the kids that were special needs as well as the other kids as well.
Yeah. The kids, I had a young man, Byron Taylor. He was Down syndrome. We called him Tank. He did the best form deadlift of anybody I've ever met.
Is that right?
And he could teach it. I was told he couldn't. I was told he'd never do it right. And being Down syndrome, they have atlas axial problems, and it's a syndrome. So there's a plethora of different things that they can have.
Uh-huh.
And we made sure he was good and safe. He never did squats, even though they said his neck was good. I refused to do it. I let him do front squats, but I never let him do back squats.
Yeah.
And I actually had kids in high school coming in to train with Byron to learn how to deadlift.
No kidding. Hey, because I don't know anything much very little about Down syndrome, are those kids, like strength-wise, are they stronger than the average person necessarily, or do they have any special qualities like that?
No, but they shock most people.
How so?
My first 500-pound deadlifter, James Walters, I had a guy come in the center and to work out, and he saw James. Now James is African American. He's 6'3", maybe 330 pounds. Not fat, just a big old boy, just as sweet as you could be. And kid said, I can't work out here if he's here. I says, why? He says, that's that James Walters boy. I said, yeah, I can't be around him. He scared me when I was little. I says, what'd he do? He said he used to shake telephone poles. He'd grab a hold of the telephone pole and scream it and shake it.
Oh, God.
I called James up. I said, James, do you remember this guy? He said, yeah. He said he was his neighbor. He said you used to shake telephone poles. He said, yeah, when I was little. I said, why'd you do that? He says, because I like to get the lines to move.
Well, at least he had a stated goal.
Yeah. Try shaking the telephone pole, make a line move.
Holy smokes, that's crazy.
He, my sister's a bilingual special ed teacher out there.
Uh-huh.
And she was out, she met James, and my sister's tiny, and James just went over top of her. So we went to one of the racetracks around here, go-kart tracks. She said, James, can you drive? He said, oh, yeah. I didn't say anything. I just looked at Carol like, go ahead. Yeah, this is really a stupid thing. Carol, you're good. Go get him. They had lids on these things. Well, they had to take the lid off because James's head sat above the lid.
Oh boy.
And when they said go, all he knew to do was put his big 15-foot to the floor.
Yeah. All or nothing.
When they hit the first abutment, my sister said, James, you steer, I'll do the gas pedal. So she's a smart cookie. But he got out and his family was with us or beside us, and the kids were yelling at the parents, you know, you're going to do this. We want to do that. And James is standing there and this guy's looking up at him. And he talked like Ray Nitschke. Remember Ray Nitschke?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The choir boy?
Yeah.
Exactly what he talked like. And he said, I'm the luckiest man in the world.
Unreal.
This guy just looked at him and he looked at me. I said, why is that, James? He said, look what my friends did for me. They let me drive.
Unbelievable. The smallest things.
Yeah. And I looked at the guy and I says, And they say he's special needs.
Right.
And he looked at his kids. I knew his kids were probably going to get beat in the car on the way home, but
yeah,
you know, they just couldn't believe it.
That gives me chills. You telling me that story. And I have to believe that that you must have gotten a tremendous amount of satisfaction doing that.
Yes.
And I would think that maybe, again, like I said, I know nothing, I'm just guessing, but I would also think that it was probably something that was really difficult to do, as far as it takes a special person to deal with children like that, maybe, or people like that.
Yeah, you can't believe everybody else. You know, they told me that Byron couldn't do this.
Right.
They told me James couldn't pull 500 some pounds, and he did a 520-pound deadlift at an AAU meet up in New York.
Yeah.
Second lift, he stands up with it at 490 on it, stood up, and he forgot to stop. He fell backwards.
Oh my goodness.
Stood right up to his heels. His toes came off the ground. He fell backwards.
Oh boy.
He hit the ground. The bar hit on top of his thighs, but you know, enough weight on it that it didn't hit him.
Yeah.
And nobody knew what to do. And I ran over. I said, James, what'd you do? Quote, I forgot to stop. So head judge is standing there and she's a world record holder. And she looked at me and he says, can I do it again? I said, yeah. I said, he gets another attempt. She said, yeah. So they get the bar off, get him, stand him up. He gets up and he walks right up to the bar, gets down to grab the bar. She says, wait a minute, sir. You got 3 more minutes. He looked at her. He says, no, I'm ready. Before she could sit down, he was standing there. Now, legally, it wasn't a good lift because she didn't put her hand up.
Right.
But the place erupted.
Wow.
Everybody went crazy. And so she told him to put it down. He wouldn't put it down. She said, down. He wouldn't put it down. He looked over at me. I said, James, you know how to put it down. And he put it down real gentle, didn't drop it, didn't bang it, didn't do anything. And the place just went crazy.
That's wild. Hey, when a kid like that who has that syndrome, when people tell them, I assume that people told them that he couldn't do it, did he have to listen to that sort of rhetoric like you did as someone who was helping him
All the time?
And
all
does
the time.
that
It's not as much from the family per se, but the family wants to protect their kids.
Yeah.
So they don't want to get them into a position where they're going to have failure. So
Yeah.
they really don't let them do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I was really lucky because, I coached football at the school. Byron was 15 of 16 children.
Wow.
The last 3 children that his mother had were developmentally disabled. And the sister passed, and then Byron went to bed one night and didn't get back up. But they were just a tremendous family. And his mother told me, she said, he's yours. You won't hurt him, and I trust you. So, okay.
Yeah.
And we went everywhere. We went all up and down the East Coast powerlifting meets.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. Are they as delicate as I would imagine? And I can understand how parents and family would want to protect somebody like that. I really do think I understand that. But would you say that they're tougher than people think as far as
Oh,
emotion?
yeah. Yeah. And they can do more than what most people think.
Yeah.
You know, the limitations, all of our limitations come either from us or from the people that,
Yeah.
well, some people that care about us and others that really don't.
Yeah.
But that's where the limitations come from. And if you listen to it long enough, you know, if someone tells you enough, you're stupid, you're
Yeah,
stupid.
that's right.
You know, and people don't quite understand that, you know, and these guys and girls, they came in, they worked out with everybody else. They had to run, they had to stretch, they had to do deadlifts, they had to do everything. And
That's
then they got to play.
Yeah, that's really cool. And one thing that I did, like in my studio here, you know, I had these strokes about 10 years ago. But one of the things that I did is I actually brought people in that were the stroke recovering. I didn't call them victims, but the people that were recovering from the strokes, I put them in right in with the the regular people, because I told them, I said, I'm not going to treat you like a victim, and I don't expect you to treat yourself like that, because I think that's, from my perspective, going up and down the road talking to people that have these things, because I was perplexed as to why there wasn't a better recovery rate. And with people that had strokes, it's like less than 10% making almost 100% recovery. And I found that to be, it's hard for me to accept anything like that. So I had to go find out myself. And Fred, just as you can probably imagine, some of the problem was the information that these people were getting. The doctors were telling them in a lot of cases, oh, after 8 to 10 months, that's as good as it gets. And you know what? They believe that. And you could see it in their eyes. Lights were out. You know, that flame goes away. And so I never treated them like a victim. I treated them like a warrior. And
well, that's what they are. They're even more of a warrior than the average person who walks into your gym, because they have to overcome more, you know, just like my Down syndrome kids did. You know, there were one of the key things that I found out, and I'm still working with kids even though I've retired. I don't let you find success at a bad lift. I don't care what it is.
Right.
Because my analogy is, kid's up to bat and he's a horrible swing that just all over the place, and you don't correct him, you just kind of let him go, and all of a sudden he hits a home run, or she hits a home run. How the hell do you tell them that they were wrong?
Exactly.
That's about the biggest success you can find.
Yeah.
You stop it beforehand. And that's what I did with my, I mean, even in a meet, I would stop them, and the judge was like, what are you doing? I says, it wasn't a good lift. But he had it. No, it doesn't matter whether he had it or not.
Yeah.
You know, I had a little girl that we took to AAU meet in New Orleans. She was 6.5, I think. Cute as a button. Her brother was in the meet, and her sister was in the meet. She wanted to be in the meet, and I said, fine. Well, she went for 6 for 6. And at the end, when it was all over with, I got all kinds of complaints from people. Well, she's stronger than that. You should have let her do this. You should have let her do that. And, you know, I'm a good old Dutchman, just like F you know. Here's how it goes. She went 6 for 6. Did your people go 6 for 6?
Yeah.
No. She had a good time. She wants to do it again.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. She's learning. This is educational.
Right.
You know, and they were like, oh, well, but she's still stronger. I said, she is, and she will be, but not today.
Right.
And not for your benefit.
You know what? But you know what, Fred? It takes a certain type of person, because you're obviously, when you're working with people like that, like I have over the years, you're part coach and you're part shrink, because you have to learn how to get the most out of those, out of your athletes. And that person, I don't care if they have Down syndrome or not, they're part of that athletic environment, as far as I'm concerned. And so many coaches don't know how to do that. You have to have a knack to be able to do that, because I think with coaches, some just aren't capable, and the others are they just don't have that knack. There's a knack to getting.
Well, I think you have coaches and you have teachers.
Yeah, that's
A
probably
true
better analogy.
teacher, a true teacher is someone who knows that I can tell you how to do it 15 different ways.
Yeah,
One of those ought to work for you. One of them should give you the hook. If not, we got to find another way to do it. Whereas a coach just going to yell and scream at you. I had coaches in high school,
yeah,
and they were horrible. They were great guys. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah,
But to teach me how to do something,
yeah. It's
we
interesting.
had one guy come in. His name was Mark Booth. This guy was 5'6" in every direction you can imagine, width, height, girth. I mean, he was just a tank. And he stood there and watched me for a while. And he called me over after practice one day. We had a long talk, and he said, "They're getting in your head." He says, "That's what they want to do." He says, "When you get down there in a stance, put the head coach's face right on the guy in front of you and knock the piss out of him." And it worked.
Absolutely.
And it was the idea that I was letting somebody else manipulate what I wanted to do. And, the harder you try, I know this is true with me, the harder you try, the worse you get.
Absolutely.
If you just do it, it works. That's what we do with the kids.
Yeah. Sylvester Stallone, I pick up on things like you do, certain things that are said that I hear. I don't care where it comes from. It could be a movie. And Stallone has said something that has actually helped me in being in front of video and doing takes. I'm better when I am not scripted, like I am on something like this. I'm when I'm scripted, I'm just not that good. But Stallone said something not too long ago that I picked up on, and he said, "Just say the words," and that kind of translating to what you're saying. Just do it. Just don't overthink it. Just say the words. And you know something, Brett? When I use that, it's these little tricks that you learn how to use on not only on other people, but yourself to be more productive. Because ever since that's happened, if I'm struggling in a take, if I'm trying to explain something, succinctly, blah, 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 and I'm struggling, I just say the words. Just say the fucking words. That's it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like, guess what happens? It comes out. It's a weird thing. Your brain is so amazing, but you can get in your own way to the point where it totally it paralyzes you in a lot of ways.
It's like with me, I'll be 71 on my mother's birthday. I'm the gift that kept on giving, whether she liked it or not. But the hardest thing I've had to do when I had to close my center because of things that were going on, I ended up in a hospital with a possible heart attack. Everything was stress related. And I thought I was handling that, and I wasn't.
Right.
And I finally got time. I had a structural engineer come in and look at the building, and he said, "This building was built in 1937. He said, "It will last another 30 years. He says, "But they don't want you here." He said, "That's the bottom line." He said, "So they've made it that you have to pass these inspections, these 8 things." He said, "You'll pass one, but the other 7 you can't."
Yeah.
Because this building wasn't built that way.
Yeah. Like
He
pissing up a
said,
tree.
"You have to make a decision. You have to decide what's best for you." And I did. It was very, very hard. I felt like a real loser. I've been doing this, and I love working with the kids now. They're all going, everybody's, me and the dog now. And I think that's the biggest thing we do as we get older. Is we have to come to terms with, okay, you were a 700-pound squatter, or you were this, or you were that. We aren't anymore. We still have that same mentality.
Yep, that's a real issue.
We still have that same drive. We just have to learn to put it in a different position.
Yeah.
And Toby Keith was I read this the other day. He was playing golf with Clint Eastwood right before Clint Eastwood made The Mule.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "What are you going to do for your birthday? You're going to be 90. He says, I'm producing and starring in a movie." He said, "How can you do that?" Greatest phrase I ever saw. And I picked up the music on it later. He says, "You just don't let the old man in."
Yeah.
He comes to your door. He knocks on your door, but you don't let him in.
I like that. That's really a good analogy.
It is. I mean, it's great. And when you listen to the song, it's pretty good. Toby Keith did a good job writing it up. But
Yeah.
As we get older, that's that's where we are. And,
it's a hard reality. It's a hard truth. It really is.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're gonna get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian power burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
One of the things I had to ask myself, kind of like with you, you keep transitioning through these ages. I thought to myself, how am I going to stay relative and relatable to an industry that I still love without doing what I did? I don't want to go. I mean, I came back at the age of 54 after a 13-year layoff. I was curious. I had a wild hair to see how close the body could get back to. I thought I was at my best at the age of 41. That was my curiosity, wondering if muscle really had memory, just all that stuff. And I did it. But I got to tell you something. I'm not so sure, and I don't regret it, but I'm not so sure that's not part of the reason why I ended up having those strokes. I mean, I was taking some stuff, honestly. I was as strong as a damn mule. I was probably putting a little too much pressure on my body at that point, at that age. And then on top of that, my life was stressed out. Personally, at every level and corner of my life, kind of sounds like what you were going through. I was just stressed out. I was handling it, but I wasn't. It sounds like what you were going through.
Yeah, we think we're handling it. We're idiots.
Yeah.
As my dad would say, we all stand up to pee and we're stupid as hell because of it. We don't think enough to say, well, maybe I need to something. Maybe I just need to go talk to somebody, or maybe I need to do it. Maybe I need to go fishing for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, and it was like, I think with you, it was, for me, that was the major crossroad that got my fucking attention, like in a heartbeat. When you're all of a sudden lying in bed and you don't know where your limbs are, that's some scary stuff right there. At least for me, that was a wake up call. And Fred, I've been told I'm emotional. In fact, I was told that this morning by my assistant that's sitting right across from me. And I'm an emotional type person. And I knew that if I couldn't live my life to some degree and still be that, because that's at the heart of who I am. I'm emotional. I'm passionate about stuff. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, do I now have to live my life flat? Like no emotion. I can't get stressed out anymore because that's not who I am.
Yeah, that's not living for you.
No. And what I figured out was this. I figured out a way to be, I think, relatable and at least to satisfy that urge is what I'm doing right now. I'm still training and teaching and motivating people in a different way instead of me going out and showing people and doing it again at an older age. So that helped. But what I learned to do was I learned to compartmentalize my life. And that's difficult to do because that's like a big change. Because my life at one time, I don't know about yours, it was just all one big, chaotic, passionate. It was all lumped into one big life. And that was causing me an issue. And I knew that. And I thought, well, I have to figure this out. So I learned how to compartmentalize my life. Like I was compartmentalizing my macros. I just kind of used my bodybuilding career and the stuff that I learned through that and try to utilize it in this new life that I was trying to figure out to make where I could still have passion. And I'll tell you what I learned so far. As I compartmentalize, I said, I still have to be able to deal with stress. I'm still in the game. I like part of that being passionate causes me a certain amount of stress. My tendency is just to, don't do it for so long. So compartmentalize it, give that stress that's due for 48 hours and then walk away from that. walk away from that. That's kind of like the difference in my mind between overtraining and training. Remember in Bulgaria when they rubbed their hands and they said, when you rub your hands too, you know what I'm talking about. When you rub your hands too much, that's chronic overtraining. You get blisters. I just use, and this is going to be something that we go right into with Bulgaria. I've used so many of those things that I learned in Bulgaria, and I put that into my life. And you know what, Fred? It wasn't easy because I felt like part of me was walking away, but I learned I didn't have to, and I could be the person that I still wanted to be with emotion, basically.
I was lucky in that when I finally closed 2018 and said goodbye to everybody and had to sell everything off, I wanted to go burn the police station down and a couple other people, you know. It's just, I felt really good after that. Not for long, but I had a local gym owner who bought some stuff from me, and he says, "Look, would you come over?" He says, "My guys need some help." I says, "Well, I can't do that." I have a hard time walking into somebody's gym because as soon as you go in there, you start looking around, and it's like, "Oh my God, how come he's letting them do that?
Oh
What
boy,
the hell is he doing?" You sit there and go, you have to turn around and walk out. So I went in, and I'm back at it now. Not as much as I was, but I'm back at it, and I'm getting the old man back out, shoving his ass out the door again. And I'm enjoying the kids. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
I have some girls that I'm training for softball. I've made slide boards for them. I started doing stuff that I was doing before, and it brings you back.
Yeah.
And I had to thank him because it brought me back out of a bad slump.
Yeah.
And what I did when I was in stress, and I still do it, I've got a wood shop. So I've learned to do furniture. I build dining room tables for people. I do wedding boxes for people, all natural woods, and but you get stressed at that too.
Sure.
It gets old. So I turned around and started to build an old truck.
Yeah.
I find different things to get rid of my stress.
There you go.
And for me to get rid of the stress, I have to be learning something.
Yeah.
I can handle the stretch if I'm screwing it up,
Yeah.
as long as I'm getting better at it, as long as
Right.
I'm learning from it.
Yeah. No, agree. I agree.
But when you're doing the same thing over and over and over, I
Yeah.
had one of the kids come into the gym out there, and he was one of my lifters years ago. He's a cop, big boy now. He's been doing a few things. And he says, "Man," he says, "I'd like to squat with you now." I says, "All right." I says, "Well, you're, what is he, 40, 45, 46, something like that, And I looked at him, and I've had a couple people say things to me that were big impacts. I had my kids out on Smith Island, which is a little island out here in the Chesapeake Bay. And we were walking through a graveyard. On this grave, the greatest thing I've ever read. "You are where I once was. I am where you shall be."
Oh man, that's heavy.
Hey, stop.
Even,
Stop.
even your dog understood that. That's some heavy shit right there. Seriously.
But and as soon as the kid said that to me, it popped in my head, and I looked at him. I said, "Well, you are where I once was, but I'm where you're going to be. I hope you can be as good as I am here, as you think you are when I was with you there." And he just looked at me. He says, "You just screwed the whole thing up." He says, "I was so excited to say that to you." And he says, "You just ruined it." I said, "Well, but that's the reality of it."
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one that was really good, and it's taken with me when I was a senior, graduating from high school, going to college. Joe Green came to the Big 33 banquet, and I was one of the players.
He played for Pittsburgh, right?
Said,
"Is that the guy that played for Pittsburgh?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big Joe Green.
Yeah.
And I said, he shook hands with me, Leo, and his thumb wrapped around his index finger like my hand was a bar.
Oh my.
And he's a big man.
That's a big dude.
And I said, "Let me ask you this." I said, what advice would you give somebody who's going to college, going to the pros, they're doing anything in life? What would be the advantage? What would be the thing you would want them to know? He said, it's simple. He says, you never piss the other guy off.
Interesting.
I said, well, but you do it all the time. He says, no, I never piss the other guy off. He says, I help people up. I knock them down, then I help them up. But when I help them up, I tell them, good job. Damn, you almost got me. And all that does is make them mad at themselves. The moment you make the person mad at themselves, you own them the rest of the game.
Yeah, you reside in their space the rest of the day. That head. Oh, that's a good, something that's smart.
It is.
That's very smart. I would have never
But you
thought
think
that.
business is the same way. You don't piss the other guy off for me because all he wants to do is ruin you.
Yeah, that's
He
true.
doesn't care how or why or nothing.
That is so true. I never thought of it like that, Fred.
Some
Smart people, wise people out there. Hey, these are fantastic stories, but I do want to talk about one story is the Bulgarian trip. That I tell people all the time. I talk about it in my podcast constantly. That trip changed my life forever. It did, in the fact that I still, even though back then the Bulgarians were so far ahead of their time, in my mind, of all the places that we were, I've always said that the mark of excellence is that it stands the test of time. It's always relative. And those guys were amazing to me. But that trip was just from the minute that, I'll never forget when I got on the plane, I told my wife at that time, I'll call you when I get there. Well, shit. Little did I know that we were going to be staying in a place where, I don't know if you remember this, you had there's one hotel that they had a phone that could call internationally.
Yep.
And of course the time difference, but then it's like, okay, they told me you'll have to go sit over there while we connect. Boy, there were some things that I just thought, oh my God, we have it so good in the US.
Oh yeah. When we landed in Prague, we got off the plane and had to walk the line.
Yeah.
We had all the guards there with all the guns and everything.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
sure you didn't get out of the line.
Yeah.
Had to go take a leak, walk in. You could tell where the bathroom was because you could smell it. And you walk to it, and there was a hole in the ground with 2 footprints.
That's right.
And whoever made that hole made it perfect. One size fit all because you almost hit it.
Unbelievable.
And you urinated up against the damn wall. The water trickling down.
You talk about a culture shock. I was in shock the whole time, but I'll tell you what, man, that really made me, when I got back from that trip, I thought there were so many things that were so amazingly beautiful, like the churches, how detailed they were, 1,000 years old, built by czars. That was mind blowing to me, just as much as it was that it took an hour to connect and the way those people had to live. That was also mind blowing to me. And that gave me so much perspective. I've often said that I think every kid should take a trip like that. Because I didn't learn that in history in school. I had no clue.
They have history. We don't have history.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, you look at. I went back 2 more times. You remember the Slavia Club?
No, but I was probably half drunk, like I was the whole time I was there.
The Slavia Club was the oldest sports training club in Varna, in Sofia. And I was actually asked, they asked me if I would bring kids over. I said, sure. Somewhere around here, I have a contract and everything with the Slavia Club. I went back twice. And actually stayed with the girl who was our interpreter.
Oh, wow. I
like family, which everyone was sleeping on couches and mattresses and everything until they got a house. And then she took me up into the Baltics. Her father had just got some property up there, and he was, oh man, I could have stayed there forever. He was building a house from scratch. He was making the doors. He had block planes and hammers and no electricity, no nothing. Everything was hand done.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and it was just it was such a simple life. And the thing that really, really got me was that when I went back and we sat down to dinner with the family, everybody had a plate, a knife, and a fork, and a lazy Susan with all the food on it. And everybody took off the lazy Susan. but everybody told about their day. Everybody talked.
Yeah.
And
That's a
everybody-
whole different deal now, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I came back here and I'm like, God, I used to complain about my mom saying, you are having Sunday dinner with us. And that is just it. I don't
Yeah.
care. And yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You know, but how much we miss when we don't.
Oh, that's the damn truth. I mean, just being around our interpreter and her sharing stories about what went on back then. It's like, hey, you gotta be kidding me. This is like something that you would make up in a story, like and it was absolutely truth. One of the things, there are many things that stand out, and Fred, I'm going to tell you right now, I'd like to have you come back on again, because there's a lot more that I'd like to talk with you about. We go about an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. I just want you to know that. But one of the stories that I do remember with you, I mean, I don't know if we each gave each other the name Roadmeister. It's probably your idea. The Roadmeister, was that your idea?
I don't know. There was you, me, and Doug Nelson.
Yes.
Doug Nelson was the tall basketball coach from the Midwest. And he, who was he with? One of the nonprofit groups. He was taught with them for years and years and years. But I remember paying. I'm sorry, I'm stepping on you.
No, it's okay. No, you're good.
And the taxi cab driver, we paid him, I think, like $20. And he just took us out of town. And every time he hit a bump, you and I were sitting in the back seat. The tires were rubbing, smoking. And he's bitching the whole time. Took us all the way out to where we found that old guy.
Yeah, out in the village.
Yeah. Every time we turned around, that old guy with the mule and the wagon.
Yeah.
I have a picture of him in front of his house. The whole house is covered in hay.
Yeah.
He did the whole field. I'm sitting there looking at him, and he was my grandfather upside down, except he had two arms. And his wife, she had to be 300 pounds if she weighed an ounce. But just, we understood everything.
Salt of the
We
earth
couldn't
people.
talk to him, but we sure as hell understood everything.
I told Kara, I said, one of the things that you and I did, or at least I did, is we went out, we took these road trips, and I took a pencil and a pad. I think maybe you had one too. And I remember sitting down, I don't know if it was at this guy's house, but another house in the village. And we sat down and they brought us something to drink. We didn't know each other's language, and we learned everything about those people. And they learned about us.
That was in Varna, and that was the mayor of the town.
There we go. I didn't know that.
We were walking along and we were commenting about their yards because they didn't have any grass.
That's right. That's right.
They had nothing but, like, he had a whole vineyard, a whole winery on one side of his area. And then on the other side, he had small plants to big plants.
Yeah.
And he was out tending that. And we just waved at him, and Doug said something to him. And he just kind of looked at us, and he said Amerikanski. That was always what we were called.
Amerikanski. Yeah.
And next thing I know, we're called in. We had they had homemade sausages. We had wine. I didn't think we were ever going to make it home.
Seriously.
We were still walking.
Yeah.
And it was, they wanted to know everything about us. They brought maps up.
Oh, yeah. It was wild.
Yeah.
I recount that story. I said, we didn't know each other's languages, but we learned about each other, each other's families. I mean, it's amazing. And I'll tell you what I learned about that. It's amazing when you just stop panicking about why they, how they can't understand you. If you just relax and just, work through it. It's amazing what you can learn. That was a growing experience for me in so many ways. I mean, and the other story I'd like to talk about, what blew my mind was how, I don't know if it was you or me who had a Polaroid camera. And because they told us, they said, these people don't have, the only pictures or self-portraits that they have is when they die on the grave, they put it up there.
Yeah, and we saw that in that one grave. And they had bottles of wine and bottles of wine and glasses in front of the headstone. And then they had that wall with everybody's picture on it.
Yeah, I mean that, and and then that one cab that picked us up. I don't know if it was you or me. Somebody took the Polaroid camera, and someone held it up to the taxi cab driver and said, "Just watch that." And that amazement of that picture coming to fruition right in front of him,
Yeah.
that blew his mind. I mean, stuff like that was just, I couldn't believe it. And even more so is a couple of days later when we did a trip. I think it might have been when you and I went up into the mountains and did arm wrestling, but I think it was the same taxi driver. He was carrying that photo with him. He cherished that fucking photo.
Yeah.
He carried it with him. I mean, who would think that that would be such a big deal, right, Fred? And yet that meant everything to them. Wasn't that true?
Yeah.
It was crazy, huh?
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
I mean, we took so much for granted.
Oh man, I'll never forget that.
And even now, I've been away from it for a while, but I think my special kids, just throwing them back in has helped me because we don't live in their world,
Right.
and to see how somebody that gives them a hug or somebody says hi to them or somebody says, something positive to them and see their face.
Unbelievable.
And some other kid would be, oh yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
But it means so much.
And that's
We
authentic.
were going to Minnesota to a Special Olympic world meet, international meet, and I had my powerlifters with me. And I started the Maryland powerlifting for Special Olympics here. And on the way out, I can be real nasty if you hurt my kids, or if you look like you're going to hurt my kids. I'm not very nice, and I'm still that way. And had one steward, was a stewardess, and the kids would ask for water. She wouldn't even acknowledge them.
Wow.
So I sat there and I says, okay, this is where size matters. I cornered her butt in the back, and she was almost in tears. I says, now, how does this make you feel? Does this upset you? She's like, yeah. I said, well, how do you think you're making my kids feel by ignoring them? You can't catch anything from them. I said, but you're going to catch something from me if you do it again. And I walked back up and I sat back down. When we got off the plane, she actually gave me a hug. She said, thank you. She said, I was so afraid. I've never been around people like this.
Yeah.
I said, you just said the perfect thing. They're people. They're the same as you or anybody else.
Yeah.
I said, but you know the difference between you and them? She said, well, there's special needs. I says, no, honey. One nucleotide different. One chemical bond different. And places are completely switched. It's all it takes.
Yeah.
I said, it isn't this great big thing that happens. It's one fracture at the wrong time,
Yeah.
at the wrong place. It's all it
Fragile.
is.
Life is fragile, delicate that way.
Yeah.
You know. One last story, Fred, that I got to tell you because that was crazy.
I learned tons in Bulgaria, and that was a ball. The Roadmeister stuff. I mean, shit, we even took that, if you remember. We ended up having a ceremony with Dave Harbison and his wife in Colorado.
I do not remember that.
You don't remember that?
I think I'm still brain dead from Bulgaria.
I might have those pictures, but when we went to Russia, and the boy that was with us, he was a Vietnam veteran. He worked for the sanitation department out in California, in San Diego, I think. And I remember walking in, and this great big man, huge man, pounding nails in the chalkboard, putting pictures up, looked like a janitor. Well, he was their head coach. And when they were talking about us coming from where we were to them, he said, he wanted to know, well, what's the difference? Why do they beat us all the time? I can't remember his name. He had blondish colored hair. He said, you're a big guy. You train your guys like you were trained. But you train all your guys like you were trained. Your little guys never get trained. Your big guys get trained. I sat back and thought about that. Boy, how true that is.
Yeah.
They want us to teach everybody the same way, but you can't.
Right. Exactly.
You have little guys that recover a whole lot faster. So beat the hell out of them. Then they'll go recover. You
Yeah.
got big guys that you can't beat as hard because muscle mass is going to take a lot longer to recover.
Yeah.
So you almost have to have, and the Bulgarians did do that. They trained the big guys the same as the little guys. And the big guys were never really that good. But the Russian big guys were pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Alexiev, I don't remember the heavyweight, but I remember going to Abajev's hometown. Remember Abajev?
Oh,
He
yeah.
was the coach.
Yeah. Abijah. Yeah.
And they asked me to go to his hometown. They were doing a thing with him, and the interpreter and I, we were talking on the way up. And he was talking about, he actually mentioned that. He says, I train everybody the same, but maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe I should think about that. But that was before we talked to the Russians.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
The thing, my idea for my training programs and my school per se, I got from Russia because we were in that big training school,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what amazed me was there wasn't a special athlete one there.
right.
In fact, you never saw anybody in either of those towns because I asked them both, where are your special needs people?
Yeah.
Like, well, we don't have them.
Yeah. That's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to recount a story and then you tell me how off or how accurate I am. We're in Bulgaria. I don't know. I can't tell you what time in the evening it is. We're at the hotel. We want a cab to go up into these mountains. And that's the only place. It's about a half hour away as I remember it. And if you stay up there too long, we got this information, I think maybe for our interpreter or whoever, they said you'll have to find your own way back. We drove up into the mountains. I don't know where we went. And it was a bar. And in that bar, all of a sudden I found myself arm wrestling. And Fred, you were the person that was setting up the arm wrestling matches.
Sure, you had to have somebody to manage you. I was your manager. I was older. Come on.
And it was all okay. I mean, you had these people pretty riled up. I was okay. And not, I'm competitive and I wanted to win and I was winning. But what was happening is that the more that I won, it seemed like it was starting to get a little bit out of hand. Like you and I needed to leave before we're going to get our asses whooped. And I do remember us getting out of there. And I remember being halfway schnockered because we did come back in time with a cab. And me and the cab driver were singing country western songs coming down that windy ass road, but not a care in the world. And somehow we're still here to talk about that. I get that about half right?
Yeah. But we did end up, you remember the little bar down from the hotel?
I think so. Yes.
You could go out the front of the hotel and you could walk down little windy steps towards the Black Sea. And we knew it was a bar because it had a neon light in
it. Yeah.
In fact, our first night there, that's where I learned the word pivo. That was beer.
I forgot about that.
So everybody got a pivo. Well, we weren't supposed to have everybody with a pivo. It was supposed to be a pivo for so many people. But
right.
And then we got that big plate of sausages. Didn't even want to ask where they came from, but they were good. And then the lights went on. The lights came back on. We're all looking around counting, making sure we're all there. And that's the way they do last call.
Yeah.
So when we came back from that arm wrestling, we ended up down at that little bar with that guy.
Oh my goodness. See, that's where I went.
I don't know how he got home.
This is where
he didn't drive us up there, but we had a good time.
Oh, really good time, man. I'll tell you what. I'm going to leave the story right there because it's a good drinking story. And I still remember that damn thing. I do remember also we were in a nightclub one time drinking and we had some Bulgarians with us. And all of a sudden the vodka started flowing and we were drinking out of bottles. And I remember you were next to me. And I remember I couldn't see anymore. I said, I got to get out of here. I'm fucking blind, dude. And I thought I was really blind until I hit the fresh air. And then we walked back to the hotel. And I'm going to leave it at that. But that was for me scary. I didn't realize at that time how much stronger their beer and their alcohol was, and how many people died every year from alcohol poisoning. I got a taste of that, so to speak.
But we never really had a hangover.
Right.
It didn't have a lot of sugar in that, and
Exactly. Pure,
it
baby.
had a lot of potato whiskey.
Right. That's
Potato
right.
vodka.
Smooth, baby. Smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, hey,
I
Fred,
brought 6 of those bottles back.
did you really?
Yeah, we couldn't do it now, but
Right.
when I got back from that trip, I landed in DC. I had to drive to Dave Pavao's wedding
Oh, man.
in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Okay. I get there at 1:00 in the morning. Bars close at 2. The bartender, she says, you only have an hour. I said, yes, ma'am. I told her where I came from and that. And I said, look, I know this is not legal. I said, but I have a bottle of vodka here. I'd like us to share if we could. She says, well, you can't do it right now. I said, okay. So at 2:00, she locked the doors. Well, out comes the potato bar.
Now you can do it.
Oh my God. Everybody in that place was hammered.
Oh, yeah.
Even the bartender. She couldn't believe it.
Well, I'll tell you what, that vodka was so smooth, it was scary smooth. I mean, you could drink it at any time, there was no, I learned a lot about vodka in those few days that we were there. Fred, do you have any contact with the interpreter still? Is she still around, like the one in Bulgaria? No?
In 07, I was looking for a lot of the stuff that I had because I had a whole bunch of stuff that I brought back. But in 07, my house burnt down.
Oh, shit.
And I lost it. Went up
Yeah.
in smoke. Still in my head, but and in my heart. But
Oh, yeah.
I have some. I'll try to get some of that together. I'm trying to find a picture of our rafting trip.
Oh, God, I have that. Now that one's up in my wall in my gym, isn't it, Kara? That one in Colorado where we were rafting. I think it's up on my. No, but I have it underneath. Yeah, I have that one, Fred. If you want, I can send that over to you.
I'll see if I can find it. If not, that'd be neat because it was
Yeah.
all of us and the guy from Speed City. Remember the little guy from Speed City?
Yeah. And I also have another photo up, if you'd like, in my gym. That's a different one that you sent to me of you and I. I'll send, if you want, I can scan that and send that over to you. If that's okay. It sounds good. Otherwise, like I said, we're gonna leave it here for today. But if you're interested, I'd like for you to come back on and I'd like to keep sharing some more stuff with you. There's a lot more stuff that we can talk about. We just really barely scratched the surface. And I'm just so happy to see you. When you reached out, it was like, holy shit. Yeah, a long time. And obviously we both have, over the years, we've all changed, and that's amazing.
I think we learned a lot on that trip and we utilized it. We went in different directions.
Yeah.
And it made us who we are and who we'll always be.
Exactly.
But it's still this common dirt between the toes.
That is true, man. That's a true story, and a strong one. That whole thing, that whole trip was just one big giant bonding in so many ways. And I'll never forget it. I keep always talking about it. My kid even says, "Why? How come you keep talking about it, Dad?" I said, you don't know. You just don't understand.
Yeah.
And I'll always talk about that. And I really appreciate that I got to share this with you, Fred. Thanks.
You know how I got to go on that trip?
What's that?
You know how I got to go on that trip?
No.
I was getting divorced. I had to get out of town.
Well, that's a good reason to go.
Honest to God. I was talking to my boss about it, and I said, I got to get out of here because she and I taught at the same school.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, you guys just need to get apart for a while. I said, all right. I said, well, I've applied for this overseas thing. I said, I don't know if I'll get it or not. Well, all of a sudden I got it, and I walked in, I stopped it on his desk. I said, okay, here's all my lesson plans. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
funny.
That made that move a whole lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I assume Ed Enos died. He passed. Ed Enos. He was the guy that set up that trip for it. Ed Enos.
Yeah.
He was a coordinator. He's not still alive, is he?
I don't know.
I wouldn't think. I mean,
that trip was through the Canadian sports program.
Yeah, and that's where Ed Enos was. I have a hard time believing because he seemed like,
and he was in his 60s then.
Yeah, then. So hey, yeah, I would, unless he has unbelievable longevity, I would think.
Who was the guy with NSCA, the dark haired guy?
I have no idea. Blank.
I'll figure it out.
Anyway, hey buddy, listen, I sure do appreciate you coming on.
Anytime. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, really awesome. And I'm glad that, it seems like things are going pretty well for you and myself as well. And I look forward to
vertical.
Yep, you're right.
Life is good.
Life is good, baby. I look forward to talking to you again, Fred.
Okay.
All right, man. You take care.
Keep in
Okay?
touch.
All right. Thank you,
See
sir.
you, bud. Love you.
Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.